Uh, Later on, we will have a space for feedback and questions. So, welcome, Octavio. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, fine. Welcome.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. My name is Octavio Hidalgo, and I'm Partnership Manager of Duolingo in Latin America, and as well the point of contact for many institutions internationally. And today I'm going to be speaking more about, well, why it's important to be certified in English, why many candidates internationally, they are always looking into all these different testing solutions that exist, and as well, why Duolingo is innovating in this market as well. And well, the value proposition that we are giving to many international universities, even governments as well, that started working with us a few years ago. And I'm going to tell you more about my experience in this part. Okay, so I'm going to proceed and share my screen. Please confirm me when you can see my slides, please. Can you see that?
Yes. Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. So Duolingo English Test, affordable language certification for all. So before we talk about the Duolingo English Test, I always like to put a little bit more context in terms of why it's important to certify your English level. As we know, one of the main factors here of why many international candidates are looking to certify your English is because many universities, schools, institutions, even governments, they request the English proficiency as something mandatory. It could be because the students are facing some sort of admissions or graduation requirement. It depends of the market, being honest with you guys. Sometimes when I speak with institutions internationally here in the US, most of the institutions, they request admissions requirement in terms of English proficiency. However, in Latin America, the scenario is completely different. And as you know, over there in Mexico, most of the institutions, they request a test, but it's more like a graduation requirement. So you can prove that you speak English, that you met with the specific criteria promoted in the university, in the high school, whatever. Okay, so second point, and very important to remark, of why people are interested in certify their English level is because many professionals, they are looking to get like better opportunities in terms of jobs and improving their CV and their resumes. And that's something very important when you are proficient in English, your opportunities, your outreach to enterprises, not only because of my personal experience, I can tell more about this, but because there are studies that mention this part. And for example, in terms of the Duolingo English test, we know that if you include that you are English proficient with the DET, with the Duolingo English test, for example, the number of views in your LinkedIn profile can increase more than 30%. That is something that many young professionals are looking into. And well, last but not least, in terms of the international accreditation, if you're looking to, for example, you want to apply to scholarships or stuff like that, many international applicants need to certify their English level because of this one as well. So now that we know that context, and I always remark that the candidates usually they face an scenario with many different certifications. Okay, however, probably you're asking yourself, well, why Duolingo decided to create the Duolingo English test, right? So we knew about this context, and you guys know that Duolingo is a quite well-known platform to teach and to learn free languages completely for free to the whole world and everything. And that's something beautiful. But we found out a few years ago, and in this slide that talks about our platform, that, well, we have more than 200 million users. We teach more than 20 languages to the world. And when we analyze, for example, those 200 million users, most of them, they are learning English in Duolingo. However, usually when you finish your courses at Duolingo and any other platform, and moving to the universities and to the schools as well, most of the institutions at the end of the process, or if you like to advance to your next step of your professional career, most of the institutions, governments, and enterprises, they request one of these exams. Okay, I mean, you need to submit like a TOEFL or an IELTS or a Cambridge exam to the institution, well, to unlock your next level or even to meet your graduation requirements. And for us, I mean, for Duolingo, it was quite illogical to not provide to the students something that could be solved through a platform. I mean, at that time, 2 years ago, many of the students, they needed to step back. They needed to certify their English level with one of these exams. And as we know, those exams sometimes will be difficult to take. In Mexico, for example, we know that the TOEFL is super expensive for the students. And we wanted to create something not only affordable, but as well accessible, following the same principles of the platform, okay? That's when we move here and we remark the mission of the Duolingo English test. We always remark that we wanted to provide something not only reliable, but as well accessible and least expensive to the international students, okay? That's what we're currently doing with the Duolingo English test. And I'm gonna mention next some of the features of the exam. At the end of the presentation, feel free to ask me any questions that you may have in terms of this context, how Duolingo decided to create the exam, or in terms of any of the features that I'm gonna be mentioning next, okay? So first feature, in terms of the accessibility and, well, the access for certifying your English level. I would say that this is one of the most innovative factors of the platform. We wanted to translate the same principle that Duolingo is accessible anytime, anywhere. So basically today you can learn any language completely for free, anytime on your mobile device. So we wanted to translate that same principle in terms of the certification services that we provide to the institutions, and we did it, okay? Today you can certify your English level anywhere on demand. You only need a device with an internet connection, a microphone, and a camera, so we can check the security and the identity of the candidate. However, we're going to be mentioning that one later on during the presentation. But the most important part to remark over here is in terms of access. You don't need to commute or to translate or to drive or to travel to the certification centers to certify your English level, because today, with the institutions that accept our exam, you can certify your English level at any time, anywhere. And when I speak with institutions, for example, in Mexico, they really like this part because, as you know, sometimes, and I was giving my example to Emmanuel a few weeks ago, and I was telling him that when I certify my English level, I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. And for me, it was very difficult to certify my English level over there, not because of the country situation, but it was more in terms of the certification center's situation. I couldn't find a date. I couldn't find a certification center in my city, and I had to travel to Puerto Rico to certify my English level. So maybe it sounds like an extreme case, but it's something that is currently happening to students internationally, and we wanted to solve that problem, okay? Sorry for that. We wanted to solve that problem, and that's why we decided to create something accessible at any time, anywhere. And well, basically, we are creating an innovative solution in terms of access, okay? In terms of the technology that we are currently implementing in the test, we always remark that, well, in terms of Duolingo as a learning platform, we wanted to translate those algorithms in terms of unique experiences for the users. And the test includes something called computer adaptive protocol. Basically, that means that the exam is unique for each candidate. Depending on your English level, the platform is going to adapt, is going to create independent situations for you so we can avoid or fight the false positive results. As you guys know, and probably some of you guys don't know very well about the false positive results, but a false positive result is when, imagine that Octavio submits a TOEFL score to CONALEP, and CONALEP checks the score, and you see, oh yeah, Octavio has a B2 level in terms of the CFR, which is a good level. But technically, when you decide to interview Octavio to interview me, you realize that that's not my real English level, and that's a false positive result. That will happen because the candidates many times with the TOEFL, they memorize questions, and sometimes there are other cases more extreme that they receive additional help or someone taking the exam for them. And in terms of fighting that and avoiding that part, we decided to create an adaptive technology inside of the test. And the first pilot that we did of this technology, it was here in the US with Harvard Extension School. And for them, it was very important to have something to avoid those false positive results. As well, I'm going to be mentioning at the end of the presentation something very unique about our proposal. That is that the exam, besides having that adaptive technology, as well includes an spontaneous interview. So depending on your English level, what I want to remark over here is that all the experience for the candidates are going to be unique. So basically, we are providing something custom made for them. Okay, so moving forward in terms of the acceptance of the test, this is something very important for the institutions that accept our exam, is that the Duolingo English test is correlated with the TOEFL and the IELTS. We have all those studies, the concordance tables, and at the end, when the institutions decide to partner with the Duolingo English test, is more to accept something that is more innovative. It has different technologies and could solve many of the problems that other certifications may have, okay? Correlated with the previous point, and in terms of the CFR, you can imagine that if the Duolingo English test is correlated with the TOEFL and the IELTS, at the same time, the exam follows the CFR, okay? The scoring range that we follow is between 0 to 100. Basically, we do take care of the 4 linguistic skills. Basically, we do evaluate the vocabulary, closed passages, listening, transcriptions, speaking, recitation, audio vocab, and as well, at the end of the exam, it has included an spontaneous interview. In 1 month, we are releasing the V2 of the exam, the second version, and in that new version of the test, there will be some writing samples that some of the Ivy League universities that we work here in the US, they requested. But basically, what I want to remark over here is that the test efficiently follows the CFR. Depending on your English level, no matters if you are an A1 or a C2, and you are super really good in English, the exam is going to adapt for you. It's going to create independent situations, and it's going to evaluate the 4 linguistic skills in an adaptive way, okay? Let's do a brief pause over here, and I always remark in the middle of my presentation some topics that are very important in terms of security. Usually when I'm speaking with institutions internationally, they always ask about this part here. They always tell me, hey, Octavio, I really like the innovative approach, the new technologies, how you are like solving many of the barriers during the application process, or well, the graduation requirement for the students, because this is a problem that we are having with other exams that we are offering to our students. But how does it work in terms of security and the integrity of your exam? I always remark that the Duolingo English test is highly secure. It has video and audio record of all the sessions of the students. Basically, we have humans behind the exams that are checking the integrity and the validity of the test. The procedure works the following. I mean, first of all, we check the identity of the candidate. The student, they need to submit an ID with a picture, depending on the country, it could be like a driver's license, a passport, a national ID card. Depending on the country, we accept different kind of documents. And as well, and I will say that this first step is pretty much similar like the TOEFL and the IELTS and the other certifications. As well, the second one, where the candidate, they have to take a picture of themselves, and that picture is going to be included in the certificate. Okay, you're going to have access to the picture of the candidate with the description in terms of the CFR in that certificate and everything. But something very important to remark here is the last point that you see over there on the left, that it says exam video, and is that once you start your onboarding process, the whole experience of the student is going to be recorded. Okay, we record the video of the whole exam of the candidate. Over there, we have some technologies in terms of Duolingo as a platform. The platform can detect if you are using additional tools or other technologies, or for example, extensions, grammar help. We can even see the screen of the student and see what they're doing. So we can detect suspicious or even malicious activities. And as well, as I was mentioned before, with the proctors that they are behind the exams, basically we did a partnership here in the US with a company called Examinity, and they provide online assessments, not only for Duolingo, but as well for recognized companies like Pearson or Oxford, that they also have other online exams, not as the Duolingo English test, but quite similar. But what I want to remark over here is that we don't only have the platform that can detect those suspicious behaviors, but as well the proctors and the human, checking all the sessions of the candidates. And at the end, one of the value proposition for the schools that decide to adopt the Duolingo English test is that, okay, we have all this validity and integrity process that we take care of checking the identity of the candidates and everything. But as well, the value proposition for you guys is that going to have a specific access, and you're going to have a specific access to that interview portion. I mean, a specific portion of the video of the exam. And over there, you're going to be able to see, oh yeah, this is the candidate. You can see the English proficiency of them, and as well, you could check that the candidate who took the exam is the same candidate graduating from the school or submitting documents and everything, because that's another challenge sometimes for the institutions, because sometimes they say, oh yeah, we accept the TOEFL over here, but we don't know very well if the candidates who are taking the TOEFL is the same candidates that that they are submitting the documents to us, right? So that's a big challenge sometimes for the institutions, and that's why we decided to create the interview at the end of the exam and provide access to them. Okay, so that's it in terms of security. The next 2 points are quite easier to understand, and I don't want to speak much about this part to save time, but in terms of the scores are super fast and they are ready in less than 48 hours. This is quite a differential when we compare with other exams, and that was one of the issues of many institutions that decided to adopt the Duolingo English test, because they were waiting a long time to receive the results of the TOEFL or others. And well, as I was explaining, for example, in my case, that I didn't have access to the certification center, and for me it was even difficult as well finding a date to take the exam. But in terms of the scores are ready in less than 48 hours, not only for the student, as well for the institutions. The institutions are listed in what we call a partners list. Over there, they can, the students can, with one click, share the result with any institution internationally, and the institution can receive all the intelligent information via the Duolingo English test dashboard, okay, that I'm going to be showing in a couple of slides. In terms of the cost, and this is an amazing factor when I speak with Mexican institutions, and not only in Mexico, but as well in Colombia, Costa Rica, and many other countries in Latin America, the cost of the test is $49. When you analyze this part against a TOEFL or an IELTS that I was mentioning in the third point of the presentation, that we are correlated with the TOEFL IBT and the IELTS, the two most important exams internationally, those exams cost more than $200. The Duolingo English test is only $49. It has included the interview portion that I was mentioning before, and I'm gonna slides. And when I speak about this part, it's just amazing, right? Because we are talking about that is something affordable, accessible, and well, you're solving many problems at the same time. At the end, the only cost when we partner with the institutions is for the student. That, I mean, if you are accepting TOEFL over there and you are offering the option to the student that when they graduate, they can take any kind of international recognized exam. The idea will be that you could include the Duolingo English test, and in the future, you can accept the score, but it's going to become probably affordable for the students because it's going to be only $49, okay? Last but not least, and speaking about the famous interview that I was mentioning during the whole presentation, in terms of the interview feature that we designed over here, we wanted to create a unique experience for the institutions, because we believe that the English level of a candidate is not only about a score, but as well is that real English proficiency that you should be capable of creating content and I mean in any kind of situation. And that's why we created this extension, as I was mentioned before, with the example of Harvard here in the US and the false positive results and everything. But here the value proposition for the institutions using us, and as well for the teachers that decide to implement this tool and measure the English level of their students, is to have something that you could be 100% sure that the students couldn't prepare their answers before, or they couldn't memorize specific bullet points to tackle these situations, because the platform, depending on your English level, is going to develop, select, or create specific situations for you. So depending on your performance in the test, you receive 4 specific prompts, as you can see over there with the example of Omar. And depending on your English level, the situation is going to be completely different for you. I mean, right now, all of us, we can take the exam, and probably, I mean, some users could take the exam and will receive some similar questions, but technically more than the 98% of the exam is going to be different. And you can see over here an example of the interview, and the value proposition for the institutions is that with the preferential access, you can just click in the interview portion of the candidate, just advance to any of the questions and, well, see how the candidate reacts and performs. Not only to see the English proficiency of the student, but as well to check the identity and to check the validity that the candidate who took the exam is the same candidate graduating from the school or submitting the documents, okay? Here's an example of the dashboard. This is the access, the preferential access that we provide to the institutions that decide to partner with us. In the future, if the CONALEP decides to accept the Duolingo English test and use it to measure the English level of the candidates, you will have a specific access to that dashboard that you see over there. With the dashboard, the institutions can see the name of the students, the score, the status of the certificate, the date, the email address if you would like to contact that student or anything like that, and as well with one click the interview portion of the candidate. As I was mentioning before, technically in 10 days, next week, we're going to be releasing the Duolingo English Test V2, the second version of the test. And in that new version, the test will include something very similar like this. Regretfully, I cannot show it yet because it's not released yet, but next week will be. And it's going to be something similar like the interview sample that you see over there, but it's going to be a writing sample. So the students, they need to write some small essays, and those prompts that they will face over there will be completely spontaneous as well. So depending on your English level, they will receive 4 additional prompts in terms of writing sample. And the institutions will have an additional column over here, and with one click, you can access to that writing sample as well. So you can see how the candidate writes, right? So that's pretty much it. I don't know if you want to leave this space for additional questions, or would you rather doing the questions at the end after Nelly's presentation?
Right now, do you have any questions or any feedback for Octavio, teachers? Okay.
Excellent. So
I'm sorry, Octavio, we have one question here.
yes.
My question is that when the students graduate from CONALEP, they're going to have the this kind of certificate with the same certificate of bachiller, or is another kind of certificate that they have to hold along a part of his own certificate of CONALEP?
Okay, so we are advancing the conversations because, I mean, we already know that CONALEP is using the Duolingo platforms, and we are advancing the conversations with the CONALEP team. So maybe in the future, you guys can accept the Duolingo English test as one of those accepted tests that the students, they need to submit at the end when they're graduating. Because the idea will be that you are already using the learning platform, the teachers are using the Duolingo schools to support the teaching process And it will be super awesome. So the students at the end, when they have that graduation, as you're saying, diploma de graduación, right? They could add this certificate, not only to show to the CONALEP that they are fluent and proficient in English, but as well to use it maybe with an international institution that already is partner of the Duolingo English test, and as well in terms of enterprises and looking for jobs, not only in Mexico, but as well in Latin America. Okay, that will be the main goal of the project that we are exploring with CONALEP. But so far we haven't decided yet if this is going. That if this is something that we're going to implement 100%. But I hope that in the future, as you are taking advantage of the free platforms of Duolingo, you can as well access completely for free to this feature. And at the end, the only cost is going to be the cost per exam and the test that each student will purchase. Okay. I hope that this answers your question. I don't know if you have any other comments or additional questions in terms of this part.
Yes, thank you. We have another question right here, please.
Hello, good morning, Octavio. My name is Juan Carlos. I think it is great that Duolingo certificates our students when they finish their English course in CONALEP. But the question here is, Duolingo platforms gives the whole knowledge that your certificate, for example, I haven't seen readings, I haven't seen writings, okay, we write sometimes, we retranslate. I think it's great. It's not, we don't have to spend a lot of money when they try to certificate. But my question is, the level of your certification is A1, A2, B1, B2, C1? You know, that's my question.
Yes. So yeah, that's something very important, and thank you for remarking that part. So it's very important to understand that, well, the thing that we are discussing right now, the Duolingo English test, is something different than the learning platform where the students, they learn English and, well, as well the Duolingo for schools, because those content, they, if I'm not wrong, they go through B1 or B2 in terms of the CFR, okay? And in terms of the Duolingo English test, we do evaluate from A1 to C2, okay? That means A1, A2, that will be the basic, or the intermediate or medium levels, B1 or B2, and as well the more advanced or proficient, that is C1 and C2, in terms of the CFR, okay? And that's why I was remarking in this point, in the previous one, that the test is correlated with the TOEFL and the IELTS, and it's because of that, because the test as well follows the CFR, the Common European Framework of Reference, Marco Común de Referencia Europeo. And yeah, that's something very important to understand, and as well that some of the contents inside of the Duolingo English test are quite different than the learning platform. It follows some of the structure and some same matrix, but at the end of things, when we were developing the test, we implemented other technologies as well. I was mentioning before with adaptive technology and everything, but all the content inside of the English proficiency certification that we provide are matched with the CFR. Okay, that answers your question, right, Juan Carlos?
Yes, thank you, Octavio. We have time for another question. There.
Good morning, Octavio. I have a question. I lost at the beginning of this information. I would like to know for who kind of students is exactly this kind of certification. Could you support me, please?
Do you mean the age, the normal age for a student that should take the exam? That's what you mean?
I mean, I can imagine that this kind of certification is not for everybody because for the knowledge and the cost. So I would like to have more information about that. Or is for everybody?
Yes. So that's a really good question. So sometimes, let me explain it like this. Sometimes when I speak with institutions, not only universities, but as well high schools and boarding schools here in the US, many times they ask me like, hey, Octavio, I mean, is this something that I could implement with my kids or teenagers that they are applying to my school, that they are only like 10 to 12 years old young? Yes, this is something that you could definitely implement in those cases because of the adaptive technology that I was explaining at the beginning of the presentation. At the end, no matter if this is something that you're implementing with teenagers, young professionals, young adults, at the end, the beautiful thing about the Duolingo English test is that with that adaptive technology, no matter your English level, no matter your age, the platform is going to adapt for you, is going to create independent situations for you to measure that English level in terms of the whole spectrum of the CFR, okay? No matter if the young professional is A1 or A2 level in terms of the CFR, the Duolingo English test can adapt for them. It's the same exam, you pay the $49 and you take it, and the platform is going to understand and is going to understand that performance and your English level and will create equations for you. And imagine another case that this is another young professional, he's like 25 years old and he's just graduating from the university over there, and he has like a more advanced level, like a C1 or C2. At the same time, that person, that candidate can take the same exam and the situations will be different for them. I hope that this answers your question. I don't know if you have any other comments in this part specifically.
Thank you, Octavio. Can you mention us the thing with the discount for taking the test? We have an agreement on that, right?
Yes. So far, as I was discussing with you guys and with Emmanuel and other faculty, with the agreement that we signed with CONALEP, if I'm not wrong, we are in a 20% discount with you guys, so we can offer a 20% preferential discount to the people who would like to participate in the test. However, as I was speaking with Emmanuel and others, we are open to consider a better proposal depending on the number of candidates or individuals that would like to participate in this part, okay?
Thank you. Teachers, do you have any other questions or feedback? Yes. We have one more question, Octavio.
Yes, I'm over here.
Also, if you have any proposal in this with Duolingo, with Octavio, please share that in order to take note of that and to analyze that proposal at the end of the day. Not only questions.
I was about to say that well, you guys have my contact information. Feel free to share that with all the participants today. And if you have like further questions or proposals or anything like that you would like to explore in terms of the Duolingo English test, I will be more than happy to be in touch with you guys, okay?
Okay, thank you. We have one more feedback
Okay,
here.
good morning, Octavio. My question is about the time. How much time need the students to get a C1 or C2?
That's a really good question. So depending, and that's something, it's very important to understand that what we were discussing today was the Duolingo English test, not the preparation for the Duolingo English test, okay? So in terms of the preparation, we provide something that is called the quick test. So technically the students access to that quick test and they could practice as many times as they want. So they can understand better what kind of topics, questions, or situations they will face in a normal scenario of a Duolingo English test. However, you can imagine that the situations will be independent and unique because of the adaptive technology that I was mentioning before. But we don't have like any kind of study that will say, oh yeah, in order to have a C1, you need to practice this, because at the end, what we are offering to the institutions is the test. So the TOEFL, TOEFL, if you speak with someone at TOEFL, they will say to you, I mean, you have to study as many hours in order to get a score. It's pretty much the same over here. We provide you with a specific access so you could practice and understand better your English level. But at the end, in order to get that English level is in terms of your preparation and how you practice, where you're learning, if it's at CONALEP or in a other professional institute. We leave that open to each participant. But at the end, what we decided to create was something to measure that real English level. I don't know if that explains a little bit more in terms of your comment over there. And in terms of the Duolingo learning platform, for that one, we have studies that, for example, it says that 34 hours of Duolingo is equivalent as a semester in university. But for example, in terms of the Duolingo learning platform and Duolingo schools, Duolingo only reaches B1 and B2 in terms of the CFR. That's something important to understand as well. I mean, with Duolingo only, you're not going to be able to reach a C1 or a C2 level of the CFR. To understand, and that's why in terms of the proposals that we do with Duolingo only to teach languages and to support the process of the institutions, we use it as a blended learning tool. We believe that it's very important, that teachers, as you guys today, support the learning process of the students in the classes, right? Because at the end, if you want to reach like advanced levels of language, you need that person interaction, okay? That's why the platform is more like a support in terms of that part. But it's very important to understand that those are two different products, okay? And today we were speaking about the test and the test as a whole, okay? I don't know if you have any other comments or questions in terms of this one.
No,
yeah, I see a hand over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before the question, the comment that you said, Octavio, is very important because in other events we had this question about which level can I get with Duolingo? And this is the answer. We can get to B1 or B2. That is the target of our level of studies. We need bilingual, intermediate bilingual students. So I think that is a great response of you, and we would like to have, as asking, we would like to have the studies or the proofs of that you just said about B1 and B2 with Duolingo. Do you have that material?
Yeah, I think that information is online in the Duolingo website, and if you cannot find it, I will be more than happy to send it with you to you as well, the white papers and the studies that I have over here. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's something very important to remark, and just to have the full spectrum of the whole presentation that I did a couple of minutes ago. The idea here, and I know about those goals. Usually, that's a normal trend when I speak with different institutions. They're always looking to certify their candidates that they have a B1 or B2 in terms of the CFR. That's what they're looking for. However, when you think about the solution in terms of the Duolingo English test, at least you're going to be aware and you can know that if you have a candidate that is more advanced and they have a C1 and C2, at the same time, the same exam is going to work for them, because they can take it and the platform is going to recognize that English level and will create those independent situations for in order to evaluate them. Okay.
Thank you, Octavio. We have one more question over there.
Yeah, Octavio, good morning. My name is Gina, and I would like to say something. First of all, I really love Duolingo. I enjoy a lot working with it, but I have something to beg you for. Please, would you try to give them less translation and more listening?
Yes, that is something that we are always encouraging over here. Yes, thank you for the feedback, Gina. And just to explain a little bit more about that one, for example, it's very important to understand how Duolingo started more than 5 years ago. We started doing translations in order to, when we created the platform, it was more like a crowdsourced solution where participants were learning languages, and in exchange they were translating documents and stuff, and we were working and partnering with CNN, Wikipedia, and important companies internationally. That's why Duolingo has many translations. However, since last 2 years, we decided to adopt a different model, okay? And yeah, we are currently working in different technologies, different products. For example, just a few months ago, last year, we released a new product, but that one is for English speakers. It's called the chatbot. I don't know if you have ever had any chance to participate in that one. But for example, if you go to your cell phone and you put the platform in English, that you speak English and you're trying to learn like French or Spanish, you can access to a specific robot or chatbot that will interact with you. And it's not very much about translations. It's more about conversational. It will be like if you're speaking with someone in WhatsApp that I know that is super famous over there in Mexico. It will be the same principle that you are texting someone. In this case, you are texting a chatbot and you are learning a language. But yeah, thank you very much for that feedback, Gina. It's something that we have in mind. But since the last 2 years, we are adopting a different path because we believe that in order to teach languages, translations is not something very efficient. Maybe on the beginning it could be, but in long term it's not. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Octavio. We have one more question over here, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good morning. We need the internet to practice on Duolingo. Could it be possible to download for free in the future? So.
I know that, well, I'm not the right guy to ask a lot of questions about the learning platform, being honest with you. I know a little bit about that one, but I'm more expert in terms of the Duolingo English test. But for example, in terms of that question, I know that you can download a specific portion of Duolingo, so you can use it offline. But yeah, for example, we are working in different projects and we know that we wanted to release in a couple of months a different product that you can download, like the whole version of the whole Duolingo 3, so you could access it to without an internet connection. But as well, just for your context, it's very important to understand that Duolingo works with specific algorithms and learning machines that basically we can detect the performance of the candidate. We understand how to motivate them, what are the words that are weak, for example. So that's something very important to understand, because if you do that without an internet connection, at a certain point, you're going to need to connect to the internet so the cloud can update and we can receive that information, okay? But so far, if I'm not wrong, the first lessons, you could download it and you could use it offline, but until a certain point, you need to, you need an internet connection to interact with the further lessons, okay?
Thank you, Octavio. We are getting close to the end. We thank you very much for your intervention. It was very rich intervention. I think all the questions were resolved. Is there any last question or comment you would like to make to Octavio? Okay. Thank you very much, Octavio.
No, thank you very much all. Thank you for all the time and for being here today. We're super excited and enthusiastic about this opportunity with CONALEP. I look forward receiving your comments. If you have any questions, feel free to send it in Spanish or English. I speak a little bit of Portuguese. I'm learning with Duolingo. And I look forward being in touch with you guys, okay? Thank you very much for your time, and feel free to have my contact information over there, okay?
Thank you, Octavio.
Bye-bye. Take care, guys.